Welcome to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. This podcast is dedicated to EAS employees of the U.S. Postal Service and members of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. So, pour yourself a cup of coffee and join us for today's episode. And now, here's your host, Robert Wakefield.
Good morning, Branch 32, and good morning, Naps family, wherever you're listening. Thank you so much for listening to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. It's presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union, located at 10 Rachel Avenue. You can visit them at npocu.org. I'm your host, Robert Wakefield. Thank you very much. President of Branch 32. Appreciate that. And we have that great show, as always, lined up for you. So go ahead, get comfortable, and pour that first cup. Since 1925, the Nashville Post Office Credit Union has been right here in Middle Tennessee, serving postal employees, their families, and our community with honest banking you can count on. Whether you're saving for something big, applying for a loan, or just looking for a place that treats you like a member and not a number, we're here for you. Visit us at 10 Rachel Drive or online anytime. The Nashville Post Office Credit Union, people helping people since 1925. And for our first cup this morning, we are going to continue our series of ELM 651.3. And I know this is not the most exciting thing that you can be listening to right now, but it's important. And we'll get to the reason why it is so important in a later episode. But we're breaking it down just to let you know the different components of ELM 651.3. And we're not doing this as a checklist. We're doing it as a healthier way to lead. We started with an earlier episode with coaching. We discussed that at length. Then we went to mentoring, which is that long walk that helps build confidence. And today we're going to be stepping in a piece that ties it all together, and that's shared responsibility. So let's get into that today on the Saturday Cup of Joe. Well, it says it pretty clear. ELM 651.3 is just very, very plain in what it says. It says the responsibility for improvement is shared between the supervisor and the employee. Shared. It's not, I'll fix you. And it's also not, you're on your own. How many times have we seen that? It's shared. And that means a lot of things. That means that the supervisor brings clarity, support, and tools. Now, let's talk about that for a second. Because many, many times, I've talked about this in earlier episodes, we don't get the support we need. You can call to a higher level office, and the phone will just ring off the hook. They'll never answer. Emails go unanswered. That's not support. And that's what this shared responsibility is. The supervisor or the upper manager brings clarity, support, and tools. It also means that the employee that you may be dealing with, or maybe yourself, you bring in effort and honesty and a follow-through. It also means that both of you agree on a plan and both of you stay engaged. People don't grow when they're pushed. They grow when they're invited. So when responsibility is shared, everything shifts. It just feels so much better. Employees feel respected. Supervisors stop feeling like the bad guy. And the thing that I like about it is that conversations become solution-focused. That's important. Solution-focused instead of blame-focused. How many times do we get blamed for something that goes wrong? Just about daily. Accountability becomes a natural thing when the responsibility is shared. And with the accountability growing like that, so does trust. Trust will grow. And if you want to try to make some improvements in any kind of process or people or whatever, that improvement sticks when the shared responsibility is taken into account. If the employee helps shape the plan, they're far more likely to follow it. If they feel heard, they feel far more likely to stay engaged. And if they feel the ownership, they're going to be more likely to succeed. Here's the deal. Shared responsibility isn't a policy line in ELM 651.3. It's a mindset. So let's bring this home. How does it work? Let me just give you just kind of an example of how this could work. Let's say that we have this clerk. His name is Derek. He's a good worker. He shows up, but he keeps missing deadlines and dispatch times. They keep slipping. Now, Amanda, his supervisor, has coached him, telling him how to do better on that. She's even paired him with a mentor, someone who has the experience that can get those things taken care of. But the issues keeps coming back over and over. Now, this is the moment where frustration usually kicks in because we always want to say, well, I already told him what to do. Why isn't he getting it? But Amanda takes a different approach. And she brings Derek into the office and she says this. She says, look, I want you to succeed, but I can't do this without you. Now, what part of this process do you think needs to change? What can you commit to? Now, that question opens a door because Derek admits he's been struggling with, let's just say, the new truck schedule. I don't know. He didn't want to look incompetent, so he stayed quiet. And because he stayed quiet, the problem stayed alive. So together, they built a plan. He'll review the new schedule at the start of every shift. He'll ask questions when something doesn't make sense. Amanda will check on him twice a week, see how things are going, and they'll look at the progress after 30 days. Now, that was not Amanda dictating a plan. That was both of them shaping it. And because Derek helped build it, he owned it. And because he owned it, he followed it. See how this is all working together? And because he followed it, the issue became resolved. That's shared responsibility. And that's exactly what ELM 651.3 looks like. And it's how it's supposed to work. That's how it's intended to be successful. Well, shared responsibility is very, very practical. And it shows up in a lot of ways. It shows up in, setting expectations together. It shows up in agreeing on timeliness. It shows up when you check in regularly. It also shows up in documenting commitments early. And it invites the employee's voice. That's what I like. If your IMPU or your plant manager wants to hear from you, it's inviting your voice to make this thing work. That's shared responsibility. It's not when you go up to someone and says, well, here's what you need to fix. But rather it's, let's fix this together. That one shift from command to collaboration, it changes everything. It's just the way it is. But the thing that just blows me away is it can change the culture. When shared responsibility becomes normal, employees stop hiding mistakes. And supervisors stop feeling like they're disciplinarians. And then the conversations become more honest as trust grows, as performance rises. The workplace becomes a much calmer place and a more human place to work. And that's the culture of ELM 651.3. And it was written to create a culture where people feel safe to grow, to feel safe to ask questions, and to feel safe to improve. It's a culture where leadership is a partnership. Well, I tell you what, it's amazing to me how we in the Postal Service, although this is in the ELM, we pay no attention to ELM 651.3. Either our upper managers don't pay attention to it, And sometimes we're guilty when we're trying to work with craft employees, we don't pay attention to it. And yet if we mentor and we coach and then we share the responsibility, success would be everywhere in the Postal Service. That's just how easy it is. So I'm asking all of you to break out the ELM, look at ELM 651.3, read it, and adhere to it, because it's your success that we're talking about. Leadership is not about carrying people. It's about walking with them. And that shared responsibility turns improvement into partnership. And I think that is a great thing that ELM 651.3 can do. All right. That's going to do it for the first cup. Let's go ahead and pour that second cup. Banking shouldn't be complicated. At the Nashville Post Office Credit Union, it isn't. With easy online loan applications, mobile deposit, shared branching, and a team that actually picks up the phone, you get real service from real people. No runaround, no surprises. Just a credit union built on trust since 1925. The Nashville Post Office Credit Union, people helping people since 1925. Can you believe it's May already? Wow. For our second cup today, we're going to be talking about the obscure holidays in the month of May. Of course, we know the biggies. We know the big ones that are in May. We have Cinco de Mayo on May the 5th. Mother's Day will be on the 10th of this month, May 10th. And here's an interesting thing. There are 2 full moons in the month of May this time. The flower moon took place on May the 1st. This is May the 2nd. But the flower moon took place last night. And then the blue moon will be on the 31st of May. But then we've got to get these wacky holidays that they're so stupid, some of them. Like May 3rd, like tomorrow. It's National 2 Different Colored Shoes Day. That's right. It's a day to embrace individuality and forget about matching your footwear. Now, that's hilarious. Then we also have on May the 9th a day of a memorial called the Lost Sock Memorial Day. It's a somber and silly tribute to all the socks that have mysteriously vanished in the laundry. That's on May the 9th, Lost Sock Memorial Day. But this is a weird one right here. Dance Like a Chicken Day on May the 14th. That's exactly what it sounds like. On May the 14th, you're supposed to dance around doing the chicken dance. Dance Like a Chicken Day. That sounds absolutely fantastic. But here's the weirdest one of all of them. This is the weirdest one. And it's on May the 29th. It's Put a Pillow on Your Fridge Day. Okay. In this weird observance, it is supposedly meant to bring good luck and prosperity to your household. That is so funny. So what we're going to do is on the May 25th episode of the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast, I'm going to remind all of NAPS members to put a pillow on top of your refrigerator, and I want you to take a picture of it and send it to SaturdayCupofJoe@gmail.com. That's right. I will put those on the NAPS Branch 32 website in the gallery. I think that would be hilarious. So be sure to be listening on May the 25th. We'll have that episode ready to go soon, and be making a picture on the 29th of putting your pillow on your refrigerator day for good luck. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of the Saturday Cup of Joe, presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. I would appreciate if you would share this with all your friends, family, call your congressman, go to your neighbor's house and say, hey, listen to this, see what you think. I just really want this podcast to grow, and I can't do it without you. So thank you so much for listening, and remember, every great weekend starts with a great cup of Joe. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. Please note that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of Robert Wakefield and do not necessarily reflect the views of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. We welcome your questions and comments, so send those to SaturdayCupOfJoe@gmail.com.